Good morning, everyone. Welcome to BookFlix today, where we delve into the captivating world of Rebecca Yarros's Fourth Wing. This enthralling novel has taken the literary world by storm, blending elements of fantasy, romance, and high-stakes adventure. Let's embark on a journey through its pages. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. A glimpse into a world of dragons and destiny. Fourth Wing introduces readers to Violet Sorrengail, a 20-year-old woman who dreams of a quiet life as a scribe. However, her mother, General Lilith Sorrengail, has other plans. Violet is thrust into the brutal environment of Basgiath War College, a prestigious institution where cadets train to become elite dragon riders. Despite her chronic illness and physical fragility, Violet's intellect and determination propel her forward. At the college, she faces deadly trials, fierce competition, and the harsh reality that only the strongest survive. Her journey is further complicated by her bond with two dragons, Tern and Anderna, and her evolving relationship with Zadin Riorson, a fellow cadet with a tumultuous past. The novel explores themes of resilience, identity, and the complexities of war. Violet's story is one of self-discovery, courage, and the pursuit of one's destiny against all odds. Violet Sorrengail's struggle. In Fourth Wing, the first key element that drives the narrative is Violet Sorrengail's journey, which begins with her unexpected and harsh transition from a life she imagined for herself to one that is thrust upon her. At the heart of the story is Violet, a 20-year-old young woman who has spent her life in the shadow of her mother's overbearing influence. General Lilith Sorrengail, a powerful and ambitious military leader, has always had grand plans for Violet, a path that does not align with the quiet life Violet longs for. From a young age, Violet dreamed of a life as a scribe, one filled with books, knowledge, and a sense of peace, far away from the chaos and danger of military life. However, her life takes an unexpected turn when she is forced to join the Basgiath War College, a prestigious but deadly institution where cadets train to become dragon riders. The War College is no ordinary school. It is a battlefield in its own right, designed to separate the strong from the weak. The cadets are trained to ride dragons, and only the toughest and most skilled survive the rigorous training. It is a world that is unfamiliar and unforgiving to Violet, who is neither physically imposing nor prepared for the brutal challenges that lie ahead. What makes Violet's situation even more complicated is her chronic illness, which makes her frail and physically vulnerable. She is far from the ideal candidate for such an environment, but her mother's decision for her to attend the college is non-negotiable. Lilith, a woman known for her iron will and determination, does not care for her daughter's desires or well-being. In her eyes, Violet's potential lies not in a quiet life of academia, but in rising to a military challenge despite the cost. Violet's initial experience at the college is marked by confusion, fear, and a sense of being out of place. She is thrust into a world where only the strong survive, where the stakes are life and death, and where every decision could mean the difference between being alive and being a casualty. As she navigates the harsh environment of the War College, Violet is constantly reminded of her perceived inadequacies. She is not like the other cadets, who are physically stronger and more prepared for the training. They view her as weak, and this judgment becomes a heavy weight she must bear. The atmosphere at the college is not one of camaraderie, but of fierce competition and survival of the fittest. In the face of this daunting new world, Violet is forced to confront her own limitations. Her chronic illness makes everything more difficult for her. She struggles with physical exhaustion, pain, and the constant pressure to prove herself. It would have been easy for Violet to give up, to let her mother's decision define her and allow her chronic illness to keep her from succeeding. However, Violet's inner strength begins to emerge. Despite the odds stacked against her, she does not give in to despair. Instead, she channels her fear and doubt into determination, slowly proving that her intellect, resilience, and willpower are just as valuable as physical strength. At the same time, Violet begins to discover her true purpose at the War College. As she faces the trials and tribulations of the institution, she comes to realize that the world of dragons and warfare is not as foreign to her as she once thought. She has a keen mind and a sharp intellect, and her ability to think strategically becomes one of her greatest assets. Violet's intelligence sets her apart from the other cadets, who often rely on brute force and physical prowess. She begins to see that while she may not be physically strong, her mind and her ability to adapt are what will allow her to survive. This realization is a turning point for Violet, as she shifts from a young woman who feels like a failure to one who embraces her own potential. As Violet grows in strength and confidence, she begins to forge connections with others at the college, even though the environment remains hostile. She finds herself navigating not only the physical and emotional challenges of the college, but also the complex relationships that form in such a high-stakes environment. Violet's bond with her dragons, Tern and Andarna, becomes one of the most significant relationships in her journey. Dragons are not just majestic creatures in this world. They are powerful, intelligent, and in many ways mirrors of their riders. Violet's connection with her dragons represents her growth and her ability to overcome the obstacles placed in front of her. It is through her dragons that Violet begins to see her own worth and her place in this harsh world. The first point of the book emphasizes Violet's struggle against the odds. It highlights her initial resistance to her fate, her frailty, and her vulnerability, but also her evolution from a woman who believes she is weak into one who discovers strength in her intellect, resilience, and emotional depth. This transformation is not instantaneous. Violet faces numerous setbacks, doubts, and failures along the way, but it is through these experiences that she learns the most about herself and her true capabilities. Her journey is not just about surviving the War College, it is about self-discovery, finding her own path, and proving to herself that she is more than just the sum of her mother's expectations. It is a journey of empowerment and self-acceptance, showing that even in the face of overwhelming challenges, one can rise and find strength from within. Violet's story is a reminder that strength is not always about physical prowess. It is about the courage to face adversity head-on, to adapt, and to find the tools necessary for survival, whether they be intellectual, emotional, or relational. Her journey is one of growth, where she learns to embrace her differences, accept her vulnerabilities, and use them to her advantage. By the end of the first phase of her story, Violet has evolved from a hesitant and uncertain young woman into a resilient and determined individual, ready to face whatever trials the War College and the world beyond may throw at her. In conclusion, the first point of Fourth Wing establishes Violet's struggle against the oppressive force of her mother's ambitions and her own physical limitations. It sets the stage for her transformation, showing that her journey will not just be about surviving a brutal training environment, but about discovering her own strength, learning to use her intellect and determination, and forging relationships that will help her navigate the complexities of war. Dragons and destiny. Violet's path is one of resilience, self-discovery, and ultimately, the realization that she is capable of far more than she ever thought possible. The War College trials. In Fourth Wing, the second key element of the narrative revolves around Violet's journey through the harsh and unforgiving training environment of Basgiath War College, an institution where only the strongest cadets are chosen to become dragon riders. This part of the story is central to Violet's transformation and her survival. The War College is not merely a school, it is a crucible designed to test the limits of those who enter it. The cadets are subjected to physical, mental, and emotional trials that push them to their breaking points. For Violet, this environment is a far cry from the life she imagined. She was a girl who longed for the quietude of a scribe's life, one filled with books and learning, not the brutal realities of combat and warfare. Now she must navigate a world where the rules of survival are dictated by strength, skill, and ruthless competition. From the moment Violet sets foot in the college, she is confronted with the stark reality of her situation. She is not physically prepared for the grueling trials ahead. Her chronic illness, which has always kept her fragile, is now a constant source of struggle. The demands of War College, long days of physical training, difficult mental tasks, and the ever-present threat of death are beyond anything Violet could have imagined. She is not the only one who feels out of place, but the other cadets seem better suited for the challenges ahead. They are stronger, faster, and more accustomed to physical strain. Violet, by contrast, is seen as weak and incapable. To the other cadets, she is the underdog, an outsider who doesn't belong. Yet, this very environment becomes the battleground for her growth, pushing her to not only survive but also to thrive in ways she never expected. At Basgiath War College, survival isn't just about completing the assignments or tasks. It's about proving that you have what it takes to become a dragon rider. The cadets must show not only their physical prowess, but also their mental fortitude, their ability to strategize and think critically under pressure. For Violet, this becomes a significant source of both conflict and opportunity. Her intellect, though not immediately seen as valuable in a world that places a high premium on physical strength, begins to emerge as one of her greatest assets. She is constantly challenged to think on her feet, to adapt, and to find creative solutions to problems that others might simply try to brute force through. Violet's struggle is not only against the expectations of the War College, but also against her own insecurities. Every moment she spends in the college's harsh training environment tests her ability to rise above her limitations, to defy the expectations of others, and to prove to herself that she is more than the weak, sickly girl she once thought herself to be. Throughout her time at the college, Violet faces multiple challenges that highlight the gap between her and her peers. The training sessions are brutal, with cadets pushed to the edge of their physical capabilities. Every task feels like a matter of life or death. For the other cadets, success in these tasks seems like a natural outcome of their physical conditioning and prior training. For Violet, success means pushing through her pain, managing her illness, and constantly fighting against the odds stacked against her. Each failure weighs heavily on her, reinforcing her feelings of inadequacy. Yet, even as Violet struggles, she begins to realize that failure is not an endpoint but a stepping stone toward growth. With each failure, she learns something new about herself, about her resilience, and about the strength she can draw from within. Her physical fragility becomes a driving force behind her determination. Where others rely on their physical strength to get ahead, Violet must rely on her intellect, her quick thinking, and her ability to adapt. She begins to understand that surviving in this cutthroat environment isn't about outmatching the others in terms of sheer power. It's about using what you have, even if what you have isn't the same as everyone else's. As Violet moves through the various stages of her training, she becomes more resourceful. She learns to work with what she has, not what she lacks. Her intellect allows her to approach situations from angles that others might not consider, and slowly, she begins to prove herself in ways that challenge the perceptions others have of her. In addition to the physical challenges, Violet must also navigate the intense emotional and psychological pressure of the college. The cadets are not only competing against each other, but also dealing with the psychological toll of being part of an institution that views life as expendable. The threat of death is always looming, and the pressure to succeed is immense. In such a high-stakes environment, alliances are formed and broken, and trust becomes a rare commodity. Violet, though initially isolated and unsure of herself, begins to build relationships with others who, like her, are struggling to find their place in this harsh world. These relationships are pivotal to her survival, as they help her understand the importance of teamwork, loyalty, and the value of human connection in a place that seems designed to break spirits. As Violet progresses through the trials at Basgiath War College, she also begins to forge an unexpected bond with her dragons, Tern and Andarna. Dragons are not mere animals in this world. They are powerful, intelligent beings with their own personalities and desires. The bond between rider and dragon is one of mutual respect and understanding. For Violet, her dragons represent both a literal and metaphorical source of strength. Tern, a dragon she bonds with early in her training, becomes a symbol of her resilience and determination. He is a fierce creature, and his connection with Violet is a reflection of her own growth. The dragon doesn't just serve as a means of transportation. He becomes a partner, an ally, and a reminder that Violet is capable of far more than she initially believed. The trials Violet faces at the War College are not merely physical. They are a crucible for her entire being. She must overcome not just the obstacles set by the institution, but also the internal obstacles of self, doubt, and fear. The emotional and psychological toll of the college is immense, but it is through these challenges that Violet begins to understand her own strength. Her relationship with Xaden Riorson, another cadet, further complicates her journey. Xaden is a skilled and powerful fighter with a complicated past, and his relationship with Violet is one filled with tension, attraction, and distrust. As their bond develops, it forces Violet to confront her own feelings, her vulnerabilities, and her desire for connection in a world that seems to value strength over all else. Through her time at Basgiath War College, Violet learns that survival isn't just about physical endurance. It's about mental fortitude, emotional resilience, and the willingness to adapt. The college, with its brutal training methods and unforgiving environment, forces Violet to confront the realities of war, of power, and of her own place within it. She learns that she cannot survive on her own. She must rely on others, on her intellect, on her dragons, and on her growing understanding of the world around her. Each challenge becomes an opportunity for Violet to redefine who she is, not based on the expectations of others, but on her own sense of worth and strength. By the end of this part of the story, Violet has undergone a significant transformation. She is no longer the weak, sickly girl who was thrust into this environment against her will. She has become a force to be reckoned with. Her journey through the trials of Basgiath War College is one of self-discovery, resilience, and personal growth. The challenges she faces are brutal, but they are also what make her stronger. The War College is a place where only the strongest survive, and Violet has proven that strength comes in many forms: intellect, resilience, adaptability, and, most importantly, the will to never give up, no matter the odds. Dragons and bonding. In Fourth Wing, the third pivotal element of the story revolves around Vile, its connection with two dragons, Tern and Andarna. Dragons in this world are not mere animals or tools. They are sentient, powerful beings that bond with their riders. The bond between rider and dragon is one of the core aspects of the narrative, and it plays a transformative role in Violet's journey. In a world that places such immense importance on becoming a dragon rider, the relationship between Violet and her dragons is far more than just a means of survival. It becomes a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and growth. From the very beginning, Violet's bond with dragons is unconventional. Unlike the other cadets, who are trained to bond with dragons from the moment they enter the War College, Violet is initially apprehensive about the whole idea. Her chronic illness has always made her feel physically weak, and the idea of being thrust into a world where dragons are revered as powerful creatures, essential to warfare and survival, is daunting. At first, Violet is uncertain of her place in this world, where she is often dismissed as too fragile, too weak to succeed. The idea of bonding with a dragon seems impossible for her. However, it is through her eventual bond with two dragons, Tern and Andarna, that she begins to unlock her own strength, both physically and emotionally. Tern, the first dragon Violet bonds with, is a fierce and formidable creature. He is unlike the other dragons at Basgiath War College. He is not just strong but intelligent and independent. Initially, Tern seems like an unlikely match for Violet. He is large, intimidating, and commands respect from everyone around him. However, their bond begins to form slowly, through moments of mutual understanding, vulnerability, and trust. Taryn is not immediately responsive to Violet, and it is through her perseverance and ability to think beyond the immediate physical challenges that she starts to gain his trust. The connection between rider and dragon is not instantaneous. It is something that develops over time with patience, respect, and a deep understanding of one another's needs and desires. For Violet, Taryn represents a new kind of strength. He is the embodiment of everything she thought she was incapable of. Where others see Violet as weak, Taryn sees her potential. The bond between them becomes a symbol of her own inner strength. Through Taryn, Violet begins to realize that she is not defined by her physical limitations or by the opinions of others. She begins to see herself as capable, resourceful, and intelligent, traits that allow her to succeed in ways that others may not. The relationship with Taryn forces Violet to confront herself, doubt, and her insecurities. As she learns to trust Taryn, she begins to trust herself more, and this transformation is crucial to her growth throughout the novel. However, Violet's journey with dragons does not stop with Taryn. She also forms a connection with Andarna, a dragon that represents a different side of Violet's character. Andarna is not like Taryn. She is smaller, more gentle, and more intuitive. The bond that Violet forms with Andarna is equally significant, but it is a different kind of connection. While Taryn represents strength, power, and determination, Andarna represents healing, balance, and emotional connection. Through her relationship with Andarna, Violet begins to understand the importance of emotional intelligence, empathy, and the ability to care for others. Andarna's role in Violet's life is not just to assist her in battle or combat situations, but to help her understand the deeper aspects of herself, her vulnerability, her capacity for compassion, and her need for emotional fulfillment. The bond between Violet and her dragons is more than just a practical one. It is an emotional and psychological connection that enables Violet to grow in ways she never thought possible. Dragons in the world of Fourth Wing are not just tools of war. They are extensions of their riders, reflecting their inner selves and their deepest emotions. The connection between Violet and her dragons mirrors her own journey of self-discovery. As she learns to communicate with Taryn and Andarna, she learns more about herself, her strengths, and her weaknesses. Each dragon represents a different aspect of Violet's personality, and together they form a complex and multifaceted relationship that is essential to her development as a character. The dragons also serve as a mirror to Violet's transformation. At the beginning of the story, she is hesitant, uncertain, and weak. She does not see herself as capable of taking on the immense responsibility of being a dragon rider. However, through her connection with Taryn and Andarna, she begins to gain confidence in herself and her abilities. The dragons, in turn, help her unlock hidden strengths. As Violet's bond with Taryn deepens, she becomes more determined, more resilient, and more willing to fight for her place in the world. Andarna, on the other hand, helps Violet connect with her emotional side, encouraging her to embrace her vulnerability and to understand the importance of compassion and empathy in a world that often values brute strength above all else. The relationship between Violet and her dragons also challenges the traditional notions of strength and power. In a world where the strongest cadets are often the most physically imposing, Violet's bond with Taryn and Andarna shows that strength comes in many forms. Violet's true power does not lie in her physical abilities but in her mind, her heart, and her ability to adapt to difficult circumstances. Her dragons are not just tools of war. They are partners, friends, and sources of emotional support. They help her navigate the dangers of Basgiath War College and the larger world beyond it. The dragons are a reminder that true strength is not always about being the biggest or the strongest, but about understanding oneself and learning to use one's unique abilities to their fullest potential. The connection with Taryn and Andarna also represents Violet's growing understanding of the importance of trust. Dragons, like people, are not easily won over. They require respect, patience, and an understanding of their needs and desires. As Violet learns to communicate with them, she realizes that trust is a two-way street. It is not just about what she can get from her dragons, but what she can give to them. The bond between rider and dragon is a mutual one, built on a foundation of respect, understanding, and shared experiences. This understanding of trust becomes a crucial part of Violet's development, both as a rider and as a person. She learns to trust her dragons, to trust herself, and to trust the people around her. This trust becomes an essential part of her growth, enabling her to confront the challenges she faces at Basgiath War College and beyond. Through her bond with Tern and Andurna, Violet also learns about sacrifice. Dragons are not invincible creatures. They are vulnerable, and their survival is tied to that of their riders. The bond between them is not just one of mutual benefit, but of shared risks and shared responsibilities. Violet comes to understand that her dragons are willing to fight for her, to protect her, and to risk their lives for her. In turn, she must be willing to do the same for them. This mutual sacrifice becomes a symbol of the deeper connection between them, and reflects the emotional depth of their relationship. Violet's journey with her dragons teaches her that survival is not just about individual strength. It is about connection, loyalty, and the willingness to protect and care for others. Ultimately, Violet's connection with Tern and Andurna is a central theme in Fourth Wing. The dragons are not just creatures of war. They are symbols of Violet's growth, transformation, and self-discovery. Through her bond with them, Violet learns the true meaning of strength, trust, and sacrifice. The dragons are not just her partners in battle. They are her companions on a journey of personal growth, helping her to unlock her own potential and navigate the complexities of the world around her. The relationship between Violet and her dragons is a testament to the power of connection and the importance of understanding and embracing one's true self. Romantic tension. In Fourth Wing, the fourth key element of the story centers around Violet's evolving relationship with Xaden Riorson, a fellow cadet at Basgiath War College. This relationship is one of the most complex and dynamic aspects of the narrative, filled with tension, emotional depth, and transformative moments. Violet and Xaden's bond is not just a romantic subplot. It plays a significant role in Violet's growth as a character and the broader themes of the story. Their connection is multifaceted, at times antagonistic, other times deeply supportive, but always reflective of the personal struggles they both face. From the very beginning, Violet's relationship with Xaden is strained and complicated. When they first meet, Xaden appears to be a hard, calculating cadet with a sharp edge. He is known for his physical prowess, his combat skills, and his enigmatic nature. He carries a certain intensity that sets him apart from many of the other cadets at the college. Xaden is not someone who is easily understood, and for much of the early part of the novel, Violet sees him as a distant, intimidating figure. He doesn't seem to have the same vulnerabilities or insecurities that Violet does. On the contrary, he seems strong, confident, and at times untouchable. However, as the story progresses, it becomes clear that Xaden is not the perfect cadet he initially appears to be. Beneath his stoic exterior lies a man burdened by a complicated past and a set of emotional scars that have shaped who he is. Like Violet, Xaden is not immune to the pressures of Basgiath War College. He has his own struggles, ones that are not immediately visible to those around him. As Violet and Xaden interact more, she begins to see the complexities of his character, which include his personal demons, his loyalty to his friends, and his strong sense of justice. What makes their relationship particularly compelling is how it evolves over time. Initially, Violet and Xaden's interactions are filled with tension, misunderstandings, and distrust. Violet is not only dealing with the brutality of the college and her own limitations, but also trying to navigate a world where Xaden's presence seems to be a constant source of conflict. Xaden is enigmatic, difficult to read, and at times downright antagonistic toward her. Violet, in turn, struggles with her growing attraction to him, which complicates her feelings even further. She is uncertain about his intentions, unsure whether she can trust him, or if he is just another obstacle in her already difficult journey. One of the key turning points in their relationship occurs when Violet begins to realize that there is more to Xaden than she initially thought. While their interactions continue to be filled with tension, Violet starts to see glimpses of a more vulnerable side of Xaden. He is not just a cold, calculating soldier. He is someone who has been shaped by loss, grief, and the weight of his past. As Violet begins to understand Xaden's history and the reasons behind his seemingly distant demeanor, she starts to empathize with him. She sees that, like her, Xaden has been pushed into a life that he never fully chose, and he is constantly fighting against the expectations placed on him. This deeper understanding between Violet and Xaden fosters a sense of trust and connection that was previously absent. As their relationship grows, they begin to confide in each other, sharing their fears, their dreams, and their vulnerabilities. This mutual openness marks a significant shift in their dynamic. They are no longer just two cadets at War College competing against each other. They are two individuals who have found common ground in their shared struggles. Violet begins to see that Xaden is not the perfect cadet she once thought him to be. Instead, he is a person with weaknesses, desires, and internal conflicts. In turn, Xaden starts to see Violet as more than just a fragile, sickly cadet who doesn't belong. He begins to recognize her strength and resilience, which were previously hidden beneath her self-doubt. As their relationship deepens, Violet and Xaden develop a profound emotional bond. The romantic tension between them intensifies, but it is not without its complexities. Violet is still uncertain about how to navigate her feelings for Xaden, and she struggles with the fear that he may ultimately reject her or see her as weak. Similarly, Xaden's own emotional walls are high, and it takes time for him to let Violet in. Their connection, however, is undeniable. It is through their interactions that both Violet and Xaden learn to confront their own emotional vulnerabilities and become more open to the possibility of love, trust, and partnership. Their bond is further tested as they face the dangers of Basgiath War College together. The environment at the college is one of constant danger and uncertainty. The cadets are thrust into life, threatening situations, and every trial they face is designed to break them down, pushing them to the brink of their physical and emotional limits. It is during these heists, takes moments that Violet and Xaden's relationship becomes more than just a romantic subplot. It becomes a partnership based on mutual respect and reliance. Violet begins to see Xaden not just as a romantic interest, but as someone who has the potential to be her ally and support system. Xaden, in turn, starts to see Violet not as someone who is fragile and weak, but as someone who is strong in her own way, someone he can trust and depend on. In these moments of vulnerability, both characters learn the importance of relying on each other. They become a source of strength for one another, offering support and comfort during the toughest times. Their connection becomes a driving force in the narrative, one that helps both of them survive the harsh environment of the War College and face the challenges that lie ahead. The emotional connection between them is palpable, and it serves as a reminder that even in a world filled with war, dragons, and danger, the human need for connection, love, and trust is still incredibly important. Violet and Xaden's relationship also highlights the theme of identity and self-worth. Throughout the story, both characters struggle with their sense of who they are and where they belong. Violet's journey is one of self-discovery, where she learns to embrace her strengths and overcome her insecurities. Xaden's journey is similarly one of self-acceptance, where he must confront his past and come to terms with who he is. Their relationship allows them both to explore and confront these internal struggles, and in doing so, they help each other grow. While their romantic relationship is an essential part of the story, it is also about the emotional and psychological support they provide for each other. It is not just about love, it is about trust, mutual respect, and understanding. Violet and Xaden's bond becomes a symbol of the healing power of human connection. Despite the harshness of the War College, despite the brutality of their environment, their relationship becomes a source of light in a world filled with darkness. It reminds them both that even in the most difficult of circumstances, it is possible to find someone who understands and supports you. By the end of the story, Violet and Xaden's relationship has evolved from one of tension and distrust to one of deep emotional connection and mutual dependence. They have grown together, facing their fears and insecurities and learning to rely on each other. Their bond becomes a symbol of hope, a reminder that in a world defined by conflict and chaos, the power of human connection is one of the most important forces of all. Through their relationship, Violet and Xaden are not only able to survive Basgiath War College, they are able to grow, heal, and ultimately become better versions of themselves. In conclusion, the relationship between Violet and Xaden in Fourth Wing is one of the most crucial and engaging elements of the story. It is a complex and evolving bond that plays a significant role in both characters' development. From initial tension and misunderstanding to a deep emotional connection, their relationship is a testament to the power of trust, vulnerability, and mutual respect. As they face the trials of Basgiath War College, Violet and Xaden learn that they are stronger together, and their bond becomes an essential part of their journey towards survival and self-discovery. Themes of resilience and identity. In Fourth Wing, the fifth key element of the story is the thematic exploration of resilience, identity, and the complexities of war, which are intricately woven throughout Violet's journey. As she navigates the brutal environment of Basgiath War College and the numerous challenges that come with it, Violet's personal growth is framed by her evolving understanding of these themes. At the heart of Violet's story is her transformation from a timid, sickly young woman with no desire to fight in the brutal world of dragons and war to someone who learns to embrace her true strength, face her fears, and carve out her own identity amidst the chaos surrounding her. The theme of resilience plays a central role in Violet's development. From the beginning of the novel, Violet is faced with what seems like an insurmountable challenge. She is physically fragile due to her chronic illness, and the demanding environment of Basgiath War College is the antithesis of what she had imagined for herself. Instead of pursuing a peaceful life as a scribe, Violet is thrust into a world of warfare, where survival is dependent on one's ability to adapt, fight, and endure. Her illness makes her an easy target for mockery and doubt, not only from her fellow cadets but also from herself. She is told time and again that she is too weak to succeed in the War College, that she doesn't belong in a world where only the strong survive. However, this narrative of weakness is slowly deconstructed as Violet learns to tap into her inner resilience. Resilience is not just about physical endurance or strength in Violet's journey. It is about mental fortitude, the ability to stand firm in the face of adversity, and the courage to continue when everything seems to be working against her. Violet's strength lies in her intellect, her ability to think critically and adapt to the changing circumstances around her. She is constantly challenged by the harsh trials in life, threatening tests at Basgiath War College, but it is through these struggles that her resilience is forged. Violet's journey teaches her that survival isn't just about being the strongest. It's about finding ways to keep going even when the odds are stacked against you. Through her persistence, she learns to trust in herself and her abilities, which is a crucial aspect of her growth. The resilience she develops over the course of the story is not just a means to survive the War College. It becomes a way for her to redefine her sense of self, worth, and identity. The theme of identity is another core element of Violet's journey. At the start of the novel, Violet has a clear idea of who she wants to be. She envisions a life filled with books, knowledge, and quiet introspection, far away from the brutal realities of warfare. Her mother, however, has different plans for her. General Lilith Sorengale, Violet's mother, forces her into a life of combat, pushing her to attend Basgiath War College despite her resistance. This stark contrast between Violet's desires and the life imposed on her creates an internal conflict that Violet struggles to reconcile throughout the story. The environment of the War College is not one that nurtures individuality or personal growth. It is designed to break the cadets down and strip away anything that might make them vulnerable. In a place where only strength and conformity are valued, Violet must navigate the complicated process of understanding who she truly is in a world that wants her to be something else entirely. Throughout the novel, Violet grapples with her sense of identity. She is constantly confronted with the question of whether she can be who she wants to be, or whether she will be forced into the mold of what others expect her to become. As Violet faces the physical challenges of War College, she begins to realize that her identity is not something that can be easily defined by others. It is not defined by her illness or her mother's ambitions, nor is it solely defined by the trials she faces in the War College. Instead, Violet's identity is something that she must create for herself, something that emerges from her experiences and the choices she makes. The story illustrates that identity is fluid, constantly shifting as Violet learns more about herself, her strengths, and her limitations. Her journey is one of self-discovery, where she learns that her worth does not lie in her ability to conform to others' expectations, but in her ability to stand firm in her own values and desires. The theme of war is also deeply intertwined with Violet's development. Basgiath War College is not just a school. It is a place that prepares cadets for battle, where the threat of death is ever present, and where the brutality of warfare is ingrained in every aspect of life. Violet enters this world with no desire to fight. She is a reluctant participant in a system that values combat above all else. However, as she is forced to confront the harsh realities of the War College, she begins to understand the complexities of war, not just the violence and death it brings, but also the psychological and emotional toll it takes on those who are caught in its wake. Violet's journey forces her to confront the true nature of war, which is not glorified or romanticized in the novel. War is a place of suffering, loss, and pain, and Violet must come to terms with the fact that survival in this world requires more than just physical strength. It requires mental resilience, emotional intelligence, and an understanding of the human cost of conflict. In her time at the War College, Violet's view of war evolves. Initially, she is repulsed by the violence and brutality of the institution. She does not want to become a soldier or a warrior. She simply wants to survive and return to a quieter life. However, as Violet's connection with her dragons grows, particularly her bond with Tern and Andarna, she begins to understand that her role in the war is not just as a participant, but as someone who can shape the outcomes of the battles she faces. Her dragons give her a sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of the role she plays in the larger conflict. The dragons, as powerful and sentient beings, also provide Violet with a new perspective on war. They are not tools of destruction, but beings that are deeply connected to their riders. This connection forces Violet to reconsider her views on war and her role in it. She begins to see that while war is painful and often unjust, there is a certain nobility in the bonds that are formed during it, whether it be the bond between rider and dragon or the relationships that develop between comrades in arms. As Violet's identity grows and she embraces her resilience, she also learns the importance of trust and loyalty in the midst of war. Throughout the novel, Violet faces numerous moments of betrayal, doubt, and uncertainty. She is forced to navigate the complexities of alliances and rivalries within Basgiath War College. She learns that survival in a world defined by war is not just about strength, but also about the ability to trust those around you, even when trust seems like a rare commodity. The relationships Violet forms with others, whether it's with Zadin Riorson, her fellow cadets, or her dragons, become crucial to her ability to survive and thrive in such a dangerous environment. The emotional connections she builds throughout the story help her understand that the true power of war lies not in the destruction it brings, but in the bonds that are forged through shared experience and mutual respect. In the end, Fourth Wing illustrates that resilience, identity, and war are all interconnected themes that shape Violet's journey. Her growth is not just physical or intellectual but emotional as well. She learns to trust herself, to find strength in her vulnerabilities, and to embrace her true identity in a world that constantly challenges her. The challenges she faces at Basgiath War College, the harsh realities of war, and the internal conflict over who she is and who she wants to become all contribute to her development as a character. Through it all, Violet's story serves as a powerful reminder that resilience is not just about surviving. It is about learning to thrive in a world that often seems determined to break you. It is about embracing your identity, finding your place in the world, and ultimately discovering your true strength in the face of adversity. Conclusion: Fourth Wing concludes as a powerful and transformative journey for Violet Sorrengail, marking her evolution from a fragile, uncertain young woman into a resilient, confident individual. Throughout the novel, Violet faces immense challenges at Basgiath War College, grappling with her physical limitations, her complex emotions, and the brutal realities of a world consumed by war. Yet, through her bonds with dragons Tern and Andarna, as well as her growing relationships with those around her, especially Zed and Riorson, it discovers that strength comes in many forms. Her journey is one of self-discovery, resilience, and the understanding that true power lies not in physicality alone, but in courage, intellect, trust, and emotional depth. By the end of the novel, Violet has not only survived the trials at the War College, but has emerged stronger, more certain of who she is, and more prepared to face the challenges ahead. The culmination of her journey is not just a victory over her external challenges, but a deeper triumph over the doubts and insecurities that once held her back. As Violet stands on the threshold of a future filled with uncertainty, she has learned that her identity is hers to define, and she is more than capable of navigating the war-torn world she inhabits. The conclusion of Fourth Wing leaves readers with a sense of hope, highlighting the power of personal growth and the importance of finding strength in unexpected places. It is a story of overcoming adversity, embracing one's true self, and discovering that even in the darkest of times, resilience and love can light the way forward. As Violet's journey unfolds, readers are reminded that the most formidable battles are often those fought within, and that the path to true strength is paved with the courage to embrace who you are, no matter the odds.